Let's talk money.
I don't have your money.
I know I'd be a lot happier with some extra cash.
Is this about money?
Obviously, this is all about money.
Oh, man, we got bills to pay, buddy.
With practical tips and a focus on scripture, let's talk money. With Dave and Reb. From More Than Enough. Real conversations about money for real people. Let's talk money.
Are you ready to talk money, Reb?
I'm ready to talk money.
Well, I'm excited about today's show already, partially because this is the guest we have on the show is somebody who we have not met, but I think we've, between you and I, have talked about quite a bit, like, you know, in a good way, of course, in a good way. So we're going to keep you in suspension.
Today's a good show. If it's someone I've wanted to interview for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so she said yes. So, you know, but give your little, like, whatever you do.
Okay.
You know?
So if this is your first time on the show, welcome. We love to have you. And there are an awful lot of shows that you missed. So don't leave, but go back and visit the shows. This is a show where we talk around the hard issues around money. And we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're anywhere you get your podcasting. We're there. We're also simulcast here in the Ottawa area on 99.1 CHRI. And of course, our shows are also on morethanenough.ca, notmine.ca, and where else? Oh, chri.ca. That was the one I was missing. Talking about who we're partnered with and the partners. Today's show is sponsored by the Canadian National Christian Foundation. They are good friends of ours. And if you are thinking, or maybe you don't want to think about, but you've heard our show where we say you should think about the estate planning and end of life and what to do with the assets that you have and how you can take care of that as part of your money journey. The Canadian National Christian Foundation is the place. They are experts in that end of life planning. And so cncf.ca is a place to visit there.
One of their taglines is connecting God's money with God's work.
Yeah.
So if you're curious about that, you can go to their website.
Okay.
cncf.ca.
Can we talk to the
yes.
guest today?
So Shaunti Feldhahn, welcome here. We're so glad to have you.
I am thrilled to be with you guys.
All right. So for those of you who don't know her, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because you'll do that much better. I was re-listening to your book, which is one of the reasons why you're here, but I forgot that you were a financial analyst in the past days.
Yes. Back in the day. Yes. Today I'm a social researcher. So basically digging out the little things that really help us thrive, the little things that make a big difference, basically, that help us thrive in our lives, in our faith, and in our relationships. So all of the above. But I did not start out this way. I actually, as you pointed out, I actually got a graduate degree that was very analytical. And then I went to work on Wall Street as a financial analyst. And I just didn't realize that I was gaining this analytical skill set that was going to be used in a completely different way. And so then over the years now have done, I think I just finished our 14th big nationally representative survey here in the US, but it has a lot of relevance for other countries. And then we write books about it and podcast. And I'm thrilled to get a chance to talk about this one.
Good. Yeah. So little plug for Shanti, and Jeff is your husband, and you guys do your podcast together.
We do.
So again, for those that are podcasters, you need to go find it and click and say, yes, go listen to amazing shows.
What do you call it? What is the podcast called actually?
It's called I Wish You Could Hear This.
Oh my goodness.
Because we interview so many amazing people in our research, and we are constantly listening to somebody tell these incredible stories and thinking, oh man, I wish people could hear this. So we ended up just starting a podcast by that name.
That's wonderful. And I get your newsletter. So you can also sign up because you have a website, Shaunti.com, I believe. So you can go and subscribe to newsletters. So you get that in your inbox. There's some really good stuff. So I've wanted to interview Shaunti. I was so excited that you're here because you wrote a book published in 2020 called Thriving in Love and Money: 5 game-changing insights about your relationship, your money, and yourself. And of course, as you've already said, you are a social researcher. So a lot of what's in this book comes out of the research findings you did. So could you tell us a little bit about the project?
Yes, actually, it's actually really, this is very much a God story for us, because Jeff and I, my husband and I, we do a lot of our research and our writing together, and we travel and speak and do marriage events. And so we have over the years really tackled a lot of marriage related issues, stuff that deals with our relationship. So we get done with one of our projects and we are approached by Thrivent. I don't know if you're familiar with Thrivent, but it's a financial services company that has a Christian background. And they were starting an initiative basically to say, money is one of the main causes of issues and arguments in marriage. We don't think it has to be. And they said, how would you feel about making this your next research project? Not about how to have a great budget, but how do you have a great relationship around money? And, they said, how would you feel about that? And we'll help fund it. And Jeff and I, it was so interesting because I went running into the kitchen to tell Jeff about this conversation. I was so excited. And we were like, oh my gosh. And then about 30 seconds later, we were like, oh my gosh. Because one of the things that we were very aware of is that all these things around marriage we'd done over the years, money was the one big issue where we were not on the same page. And we didn't fight about it. We just avoided it completely.
Wow.
And so we're like, oh no, if we do this research project, we're going to have to actually talk about money. And so it was a very good research project in terms of digging out the things that matter for relationships and marriage around money. But it was also a very personal project because we had to be learning this stuff right along with it. So,
I'm laughing a little bit internally because when David, so you don't know this, Shaunti, but David left a family business as an automotive technician, and then we waited on the Lord for next steps. And it is a long story, but he became a financial coach. And he came home to tell me that this is where he felt God was leading him. And all I said was, oh no, because now we're actually going to have to do what you teach. And up until that point, I had been doing the money stuff, right? I had been, and there's reasons why he left it to me. But we had to start talking about money, and we have some funny stories about our kids calling us out on here, listening to us, and they're like, you say this and this and this about God, but we don't see this in your life. You're like, okay. So I do appreciate that part of your journey.
You get it.
Yes,
you get
100%.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. So you had a team. It wasn't just you and Jeff doing all the question asking, I guess.
Yeah, one of the things that we've done over the years, and we've gotten a little more proficient at it. The studies have gotten more and more robust over the years. And we also do have a fantastic team of people. And one of our main advisors for 20 years was the former chief of survey design at this U.S. Census Bureau. Just an incredible man named Dr. Charles Cowan. And so one of the things that we did in this one, he was so interested in this topic that in addition to all the survey analysis and the normal stuff that we did, that he ran all sorts of much higher level statistical analysis. And that's something that I eventually got my PhD in being able and was able to do that analysis myself. But he's so much better at it. And he just was fascinated about some of the stuff I think that you want to talk about today. And some of those findings actually came from the really intensive investigation that he did as well.
Wow.
Okay, so we're not going to be able to get to all 5, but let's get to 1 or 2.
Well, can we ask her first? I had asked her if there was a scripture verse that kind of sums up your heart around this work that you've done. What would it be?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So the main scripture that's a touch point for us on this is something that probably everybody is familiar with, Matthew 6:21, where Jesus says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be. And the heart behind this book and the research project and all the stuff that we've tried to dig out is recognizing there's a reason that money and, you talk about the 2 big issues in marriage are money and sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the big argument starters, and the statistics bear that out. And why is that? It's because when we have tension around money, it's not about the money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's about how money makes us feel. It's the heart under it. And that's what Jesus was getting at, is that money is one of the few things that really has this power to really show our hearts and where our hearts are. And also, one of the things we tend not to recognize, how we handle money, it doesn't just reveal our heart, it also steers our heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love
Wow.
that.
And leads us in different ways depending on what we do and don't do. And so trying to get at the issues underneath that ended up being this project to go, okay, if it's not about the money, if it's about how money makes us feel, if it's about how money makes our spouse feel, and about all these things that are running under the surface that impact marriage and everything else, what are those things? And so that's really what we were focusing on for the years that we did this study, is just trying to dig out what are those key, simple factors that everybody needs to know, that it's going to make a difference in how the 2 of you as a married couple are able to handle money together and have a good relationship around it.
Amazing. I mean, we talk about the podcast being the story of the hard issues around money, and we're going, and this is why I think we love the book. And like I said, we want to jump in as quickly as we can, but because you articulate so well that idea that, there's competition for our hearts. There's the world, there's money, there's like all of that. And God really wants to be that. He wants to capture our heart. And so, pointing this out and saying, okay, you can't just let it slide and think that money is going to somehow not capture your heart. It will, if we don't intentionally put our direction towards the Lord.
Yeah. I was just listening to you because I was listening to it on the way in this morning, and you had said in the book that, there was a stat about we often think that more money will solve our problems, but actually just some of the we don't have to go into deep dive into that, but actually some of the things you found is, people with a lot of money, if they're not talking about it, are actually not happy. Like it doesn't solve the problem.
It doesn't. Everybody thinks it will. And it was really actually kind of interesting. Because we always do a 2-part research study where we do a bunch of interviews first. Like we will sit down with all sorts of people, ask them questions. If they're married, how does this impact your relationship? Like all those things. And then do a big survey, big expensive survey. And one of the research sites that we really dug into was we had an opportunity to speak to a group of very high net worth families. And it was a retreat that is pulled together every year or 2 for this type of family, where it's, I know it sounds funny to other people and to people like when I heard this the first time, but it's sometimes kind of hard to actually be a very high net worth person.
Yep. Yeah.
There's a lot of challenges that come along with that. And so, we love to be able to speak into that, but we're like, hey, can we do some research interviews? And so we sat down with a bunch of these couples, a bunch of these families. And my first question to all of them was, does it help around money, the fact that you don't have to worry about money. Like you don't have to worry about how you're going to provide for your needs. And every single couple, when I asked that question, they all started howling. Like it was the most hilarious question they'd ever heard. Because it's like, no, like one of them was like, if you have more money, you just have more to argue about. Like
Wow.
there's just because of the heart issues, those heart issues are there still and they're magnified. Mm-hmm. And so what we found once we actually did this is there's actually several pieces to this where it is important to build up cushion and to build up margin. We found that statistically. Mm-hmm. It's not about the amount of money that you have, but it is about having some sense of margin in it. So that, for example, something happens with the car and you aren't able to fix it, it like adds all sort of tension into your relationship, right? So having a little bit of that built up in whatever your version of that is one thing that's really key. But then underneath that, what we found in all of these high net worth individuals, we saw it the same in the statistics on the survey, is that underneath that is actually, if you have all the margin in the world and you have tons of money, but you can't talk about it and you can't talk about money, that also has a bigger impact on your relationship than the money. Mm-hmm. So in order to build up the margin and the work that you guys do, the people like you that do financial coaching and people who are like money people and who love to be able to dig into this and figure out how do we get out of debt and, can we have our, budget just right? All of that is awesome. But we found that 77% of couples can't really talk about money well. And if you can't, a lot of that stuff really doesn't end up helping your relationship. Wow. It's the being able to have the margin and talk about it that really helps.
That's a high statistic. 77%.
So we're on the mission to help you change that. Okay. Like I'm saying that right now on the podcast to say, you know what, we're going to, right now, 77% of you can't talk about money. We're going to change that so that 100% of you can talk about money.
That would be a great, great goal. So you, like we mentioned it at the beginning, on your front page of your book, it says 5 game-changing insights about your relationship, your money, and yourself. So you learned all this stuff about like, oh man, what people are struggling with. But then what are some of the insights, even one, we could just pick one because I just want to encourage people to go get your book or listen to it in audio. But what's one of the significant insights you have drawn from all of your research?
So one of the first of the chapters where we talk about these 5 insights, we put this first for a reason because one of the key factors that is statistically, underneath a lot of the day-to-day friction in a relationship is that we don't realize it, but each of us is not valuing what the other person is valuing. Mm-hmm. And let me give you a sort of a couple of examples of this, because I know that sounds funny. It's like, what does that mean exactly? So think of it this way. We all know that we're married to, if we're married to somebody who is like different from us. Like this is not a surprise. Like right. we are aware that they are a different human, right? And yet for some reason, when it comes to money, we have this idea in our heads based on our experience, maybe our childhood, maybe whatever it was that we learned about money, things that happened to us, whatever those reasons are, we have this idea of, oh, this is how you should, in air quotes, right? This is how you should handle money. Like everybody knows this. It's just the way it works. And it's just obvious. And it just doesn't occur to us that this different person that we're married to may have a completely different set of shoulds. Mm-hmm. And they're thinking, oh, well, it's obvious. This is how you handle money. And those two could be completely different. And what we have to grasp is that in many cases, now not all, but in many cases, there is no one objective right or wrong way of handling certain things around money. It's just different. And let me give you an example of that, right? So just so you know what I mean. So picture, and this is a simplistic example, but it's these little silly examples that make a marriage, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I'm a simple guy. Go for it, Shanti. Right.
Yeah, right. So this is just to illustrate it. Suppose that one person, it's just obvious to them that we both work really hard. We work long hours. We really need to be putting our money and our attention towards being able to take a really nice vacation with the family every year. Like that's just so that we get away, we turn off our phones, we have a week or two where we just are able to have the downtime. And that's what we should be focusing on. And that's just obvious to that person. Where to the other person, it's just obvious that we're working so hard, we're working so many hours, we really have to put our money and our attention toward having a good date night every 2 weeks. And being able to go out to dinner and to do things together and do things as a family and spend the money on an ongoing rolling basis so that we stay in touch with each other. And that is just obvious that that's what we should do. Right? Are either of those right or wrong?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, those are, you're valuing two different things. One person is valuing looking forward to this time away that is just going to be so special every year with the family. The other is looking forward to time away every 2 weeks and constant ongoing connection. And those are two different values. And again, if you have 100 objective people who look at those two options, you're not going to have 100 people say one is right and one is wrong. Now, obviously, there are some things that you can look at, and you'd have 100 objective people who look at like a shopping addiction, and they would say, okay, that's a concern. Like that's maybe a value that comes from certain hurts and certain insecurities and mental health issues, and there's an objective concern there. But the vast majority of the things that cause the friction aren't in that category. Right. It's usually just we have to learn how to honor what the other person values.
So, and you also mentioned we don't have to agree with the other person's value, but we do have to understand it.
Can I give you another example that's going to hit a couple of nerves probably with you?
Oh, we love that.
We love that. Go for it.
Yes.
So whenever I get invited to talk about this topic on the radio, it is usually because it is a money radio program or a money podcast, right? Not surprising, like you guys.
Yeah.
And when I speak at money related events, I always ask, and I would ask the people listening to this, who in your family is the money person? Right? Is that you? Is that your spouse? Is that both of you? Right? And if you are listening to this, you are probably the money person. And you probably have a set of shoulds that come along with feeling like, well, I've done all the reading. I know the right way of handling things. And you may not realize that one of the things you are doing every day without ever intending to is shutting down your spouse and not allowing those values that your spouse has to come to the forefront. And so you end up taking over the money, and the spouse ends up often, not always, but often ends up feeling sidelined. And so when I do radio call-in programs, one of the things that is a very common call-in question is, how can I get my spouse on the same page around money? And I always say, you have to realize that what you're asking is, how can I get my spouse to agree with me and think like I do?
Right.
And there is an incredibly important need for us, each of us, to be able to say, what you care about, it may be just as important as what I care about. And I'll tell all the money people out there, this is going to make hives break out on people right now, but I'll tell them that one of the things that you might have to wrestle with is whether there is a need to, if your spouse, for example, if you're the planner, saver, person, like everything is down to the minute with the money. Your spouse wants a little more flexibility. Maybe that's okay. Like that's the kind of thing that you have to be willing to talk about what that might look like.
Yeah. Yeah, so much there. My brain is just churning when you're talking about it. But we're here to listen to you. So I'm like, okay, keep going, Shanti, because like what you're saying, I mean, we can identify with that. But one of the observations we've had, and maybe just speak to that a little bit, is the speed at which our lives are going, like at 200 miles an hour for a lot of us, how that impacts exactly what you've been talking about, valuing and that takes time, but maybe just like, what did your research speak to in 1 minute or less? So we're coming to the end of the show. But, in terms of that time factor of taking the time to hear your spouse, if that's again in your queue.
Well, yeah. So it's partly taking the time to hear it. It's partly a willingness to hear it. It's partly a recognition that there's even something to hear.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
And that's part of the issue is in this crazy world that we're living in. There is a need to go, okay, maybe I have just been task oriented, which is, all of us have that tendency. And so if we go, okay, maybe my task orientation needs to give way to showing my spouse that I care about them. And that maybe I've been insisting on these monthly financial meetings, which are great, like awesome, get on the same page, like whatever that is. But have I really been listening to what my spouse cares about? So that is something that doesn't have to take a ton of time. It's just signaling, I really do want to hear what you care about. If you care, for example, about having date nights every 2 weeks because you feel disconnected and you want to have the family also be able to go out and go bowling, awesome.
Yeah. It's the taking the time to listen and recognizing that maybe I haven't been listening. And my spouse could be shutting down for that very reason. And that's why we're not talking about it. But there's so much here. And at the end of the show now, for anyone watching on YouTube, I have the book in my hand. It's not intimidating, I should say. It's written and divided in such a way that you can take it in chunks if you're not a reader. You can also listen to it, which is wonderful because you can hear Shanti's voice as she reads it. We want to offer, More Than Enough wants to offer listeners, the first 5 listeners who email our office at info@morethanenough.ca, info@morethanenough.ca. We're going to give 5 copies of her book away. So and it'll be timestamped. So when you listen to this now, you just go quickly to your phone and computer and send us an email saying you've heard it, and we'll send you a copy of her book, because there's so much good stuff in here that we highly recommend you read it and take it into your relationship with your spouse.
Thank you, Shanti, for being with us. Such a pleasure to spend this time together with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. And of course, a shout out to CNCF, the Canadian National Christian Foundation. You can check them out at cncf.ca. And Reb?
Join us next week when we talk money.
Let's Talk Money is a division of More Than Enough Financial Fitness, where God is transforming hearts and bringing hope for today and freedom for tomorrow. For more information or to comment on today's show, please visit morethanenough.ca.